Thank you, John. We'll try to hold this to less than 3 hours for you. Okay. It's my pleasure today to welcome back Dr. John Romano. Dr. Romano is Vice President Emeritus at the Penn State University and returned from his retirement, we're glad, to Penn State York on August 1st to lead the campus in the role as interim chancellor. John has a long-standing record of exceptional experience as a senior leader of the university, which was recognized at the time of his retirement by dedicating a wing of the main classroom building here at Penn State York as a Romano administration building. John's prior roles at Penn State included the Vice President of the Commonwealth Campuses, Vice Provost and Dean for Enrollment Management and Administration, service on various senior university committees including the Academic Leadership Council, President's Council, and the University Faculty Senate, and of course his role here as the Campus Executive Officer of Penn State York from 1985 to 1993. John has been a leader in general education, where he has served as Executive Council member, Executive Director, and finally as President of the Association of General and Liberal Studies, which is a national organization committed to undergraduate and general education reform and innovation. John has spoken on many issues of general education at numerous state and national functions on topics including the changing role of higher education, trends in general education, and challenges and opportunities in higher education. John received his Bachelor of Science degree in secondary education physics from the State University of New York. He holds a master's degree from Springfield College in Guidance and Counseling and a PhD in Counselor Education from Penn State. He speaks to Rotary today on the topic of the American Dream. One of the pillars of the American experience is the hope of all parents to have their daughters and their sons will achieve greater success and accomplishment than they did. Education in all of its forms, including public and private, is the avenue that guides individuals to achieve that dream. So please join me in providing John with a warm welcome back to the York community and to the Rotary Club of York.
President John, Dan, thank you very much for that kind welcome. Pleasure to be here with all of you again. It was 27 years ago, probably about this time, maybe a little bit later in the year, when I first had the honor and pleasure of addressing this group as then a new Rotarian. Back then, Sam Meisenhelder, who was here just a couple of weeks ago when I visited the club as a guest, introduced me. So I have two good colleagues that have introduced me to this club over the course of the past 27 years. I will tell you that I will never forget what Sam told me when I was new to York. He said, you will hear from time to time that Yorkers might not be so welcoming to newcomers or people from outside of the community. He said, don't believe it. And I didn't. I can tell you that beginning in 1985, my wife Stephanie and I and our two children spent 8 wonderful years here at York. We were welcomed by all then, and I feel I am welcome again, we are welcome again to be back among so many people, some of whom I actually continue to remember. So, it's really a pleasure to be here with you. I want the word to go forward from this point right now. I did not flunk retirement. 2 years ago in June, I retired from Penn State, having served in various assignments over 41 years. I have been privileged to observe the university from many different vantage points, from that of a graduate student, a faculty member, an administrator in the College of Liberal Arts, a campus executive here at York, a vice provost and dean for enrollment management, as Dan mentioned, and finally, as vice president for Commonwealth campuses, overseeing 19 of the university's 24 campuses. It was rather an amazing ride. I retired happily, and then this phone went off. I was minding my own business, enjoying a good day, but these things have a habit of catching you wherever you happen to be. And so 7 or 8 weeks ago, I was enjoying, if you will, the good life. And those of you who are retired, I'm here to second what you already know. Retirement ain't half bad. Anderson, you have a long way to go before you retire. You have a lot of work to do first. And so here I am again in York as the campus executive until a permanent chancellor can be identified. And in so doing, I'm leaving my wife and I are leaving our beloved sailboat, Seabury, resting quietly in the Chesapeake, all alone. Not to mention that I am certain my golf game will grow worse with inactivity. The story I would like to share with you is really a simple one. How did this all come about? Not how did I wind up in York, but how did this career path with a lifetime of service in education, mostly at Penn State, but with earlier assignments at the University of Delaware and Springfield College in Massachusetts. You may not know this, but I've been a Yorker all my life. Truth be told, I'm a New Yorker. And some have told me that might permanently disqualify me from ever being a Yorker or as a Yorker because I came from that other big city just a little bit east of here. But I know that I'm amongst friends today, and I'm sure you welcome me even as a New Yorker as part of New York. I was born in New York City, in Manhattan, in East Harlem. My father was born in Italy. He came to the United States via Ellis Island with his parents in 1915 when he was 4 years old. My mother was born in New York City. Her parents both immigrated to New York, also from Italy, as young children with their parents in the 1890s. If you come from East Harlem, you probably are poor. My mom graduated from high school, my dad the 7th grade. In those days, you went to work early. When I think back upon my life, I consider myself a fairly lucky guy. I understand that many would argue that you make your luck in this world, and I would agree with that. Hard work pays off. But we also need help along the way, and some more so than others. I know that the slow but steady transformation of who I was, what I did, and how hard I worked came from me, my family, my wife, children. It also came by way of the educational experiences I was lucky enough to encounter along the way. Step by step, course by course, teacher by teacher, degree by degree, and my life began to take the form that it did and unfold. I can't tell you why I kept going to school. It was hard work. I I was not an honor student. I worked at school and I worked after school, in junior high, in high school, and college. Back then, as now, one needed to earn money in order to have enough resources to attend school. Along the way, I bumped into teachers who helped guide me, prompt me, provoke me, even embarrass me, to get me to aim high, higher than I would have done on my own. I am the product of all those encounters, with my family, of course, but also with the formal education I experienced in a public school in New York City, community college, public university in New York, private college in Massachusetts, and finally a public university of world-class recognition in Pennsylvania, Penn State. Why do I share this story? It's not that interesting or even unusual. Many of you perhaps have followed your own similar byways. Everywhere around us, in this city, in our suburbs, in our countryside, there are thousands and thousands of young people, even older ones, who are trying to discover who they are and to reach beyond themselves. Although there are many independently minded and entrepreneurial individuals who have and can learn how to succeed absent of formal education to back them up, I am convinced that the basic foundation for the American dream in our country is rooted in an ever-demanding and challenging education we must all share with each new generation. Without a vibrant educational enterprise to spur greater understanding, innovation, and research, the absence or the advance of our society will suffer as our nation moves forward. We are living in tough, some would argue perilous, economic and societal times, both domestically and internationally. Unemployment is too high. Advancement for all is not guaranteed, but I am convinced that without a robust educational establishment from elementary school through college, public and private alike, including technical education, our nation will struggle to prosper. In the end, teachers and professors are at the heart of our educational enterprise. Without them, people might not find their pathways in life, pathways that you and I were lucky enough to discover. Penn State York, York College of Pennsylvania, other collegiate entities in the area, our communities, public and private, primary and secondary schools, are in the business together to help young people find their way through the challenging periods we face. The York community is made stronger by a vibrant Penn State. And likewise, a vibrant community in York helps build and support a vibrant Penn State. It is a partnership that fosters the development of a healthy economy and employees who in your workplaces are ready to meet the challenges that you face in the business world today. And if they cannot, to retrain them so that they can become the most productive employees for your businesses. These are terribly complex and challenging period or times for an education. The Department of Labor forecasts by 2020, only 8 short years from where we are today, 75% of the jobs will require a college or technical education. State, local, and federal funding in support of education are at a crossroads. Costs of college are increasing. If it gets out of balance, educational opportunities will be beyond the reach of an increasing proportion of our populace. That would not be good for the advance of the economy, our society, or America. We here in York are fortunate to have one of the 24 campuses of Penn State, a portal and entryway to what has recently been ranked the 49th most accomplished university in the world. Not in Pennsylvania, not in the United States, but in the world. Through the years, 2/3 of all Penn Staters have begun their collegiate educations at campuses just like Penn State York within the Penn State system. It is the avenue that my wife and I recommended to our own children as they were ready to begin their baccalaureate careers, and just like you, we wanted them to experience the best that Penn State or any higher education opportunity can provide. My daughter began her Penn State education at Penn State Erie, my son at Penn State Berks. They both graduated from one of the colleges of the university. They are well. My daughter married and working in Maine with mother of 3. My son married just 3 weeks ago in Southern California, and we are doing well, although we are spread across the continent pretty far. We face many, many challenges at Penn State today, but I am convinced that the university will continue to be a beacon of hope for generation and generations to come. Quite candidly, I am proud to be working again at Penn State, proud and honored to be working again at Penn State York, and thankful for the opportunity that you all have provided me to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Dr. Romano?
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Gordon.
You were talking about the cost of college. John, do you know what percentage of Penn State students are receiving scholarships from the university?
The question is, I was talking about the cost of college. Do I know what percent of Penn State students are receiving scholarships? I wish the percentage were larger than it actually is. As big as the university is, with 96,000 students cut across all of the university's campuses, the number of scholarships that we have that support Penn State students is minuscule, believe it or not, because as a public institution, we were rarely in the business of raising funds privately. And we've only just begun to do that over the course of the last 20 or 25 years. Now, most students receive some form of federal or state aid, but those are either loans or grants. But the number that receive Penn State scholarships, I can't give you that number, but it's preciously small compared to the overall number of students that we have enrolled. And then usually the scholarships are focused on the students who are the very highest achieving. So while that's a wonderful thing to do, there are so many students who are in the middle of the pack who really do not benefit from the scholarships, which is one of the reasons why the current capital campaign that we are in at Penn State is rooted in trying to bolster the undergraduate and graduate experience for students by building resources and endowment so that the university will be able to get more scholarships than it does.
Recognizing that the cost of higher education escalates at a higher rate than other costs in the country, except for health costs. What does Penn State and the other public institutions, how seriously are you looking at how to maintain or reduce or keep costs in line? That is, look at cost reductions in those programs where they can be reduced. I mean, is there any serious effort or is there not?
The question is there any serious effort underway at Penn State to deal with the rising costs of tuition at many public universities, including Penn State? Absolutely. Over the course of 41 years that I have spent at the university, I would say the last 10 to 15 years were significantly challenged in the area of cost and cost containment. We have an organization, a structure within the university that has routinely, over the course of the last 10 or 15 years, looked at ways to try to minimize the ever-increasing cost of running the university. The problem is that we compare the cost of running the university to the inflation index that we see in the world. A university, not just Penn State, any college university, operates in a microcosm of that inflation index. And the inflation index for the activities that the university is engaged in, acquiring new knowledge, developing new knowledge, disseminating new knowledge, having that knowledge available in the library, those costs have been significantly higher. They are an expense to the university, and if we want to have a library that is in fact prominent and doing everything that it can to spread the information across all quarters of the Commonwealth, which is what our libraries do, we have to participate in those areas. But the beauty of having been retired for 2 years, you forget about all of the details, but I can tell you that in the tens of millions of dollars, the university has continued to cut its expenses in a very challenging arena, because we too are facing the same healthcare costs that other organizations and your organizations are feeling. I can say that this past fall, the tuition increase that Penn State announced was the lowest tuition increase percentage-wise over the past 35 years. So that was a remarkable achievement in a very challenging circumstance, especially with the state being challenged fiscally in terms of its appropriation to the university. But without giving you the specifics of the detail, I can tell you that tens of millions of dollars have been saved, have been reduced in the normal cost of operation of the university. Problem is there are other costs that continue to escalate. You mentioned one of them, healthcare, that we are forced to deal with, just like any other organization. Thank you very much.